Hi, fellow students. Now we're looking at the last problem or puzzle on how to improve your bishop. Okay, so what's happening in this situation? Obviously, white is much better because he has the total control on the d file. And one very important aspect when it comes to minor pieces is, as you can see, when it comes to the pawn structure, this position is a two-winged pawn structure, which means black has pawns on the queen side and he has a separate pawn chains on the king side. And in an open position where both sides have two pawn islands, the bishop tends to shine a little bit more than the knight. Or in fact, most of the time the bishop outshines the knight in these types of situations. But okay, white is dominating. The d file, black has a bad pawn structure on the queen side, considering that he has an isolated pawn on a6 and c5. And as what you can see, black's position is very uncoordinated. Okay, but of course he doesn't really have any weaknesses that is quite easy to attack. So what's the first step for white here? Obviously, this is a puzzle on how to improve the bishop. Therefore, what's the current problem with white's bishop at the moment? White's problem with bishop is obviously right now it's completely limited, and therefore, if he's not going to improve this bishop will be useless, and it's going to be harder for white to take advantage of his positional plus. Therefore, white should find a better square for this bishop. Okay, so did you find the answer? And the right answer here is bishop e2. Very good move. We're going to transfer it to a longer diagonal, where it will control a longer diagonal of squares. And obviously, the bishop, when your bishop's on f3, it's going to help out your 3 against 2 majority on the queen side. So if it happens that white could create the pass pawn, the bishop will help out the advancement of white's pass pawn in the future. Okay, this is the first step, improve your bishop's position. What's next? In the game, black simply played rook c6. Maybe he was waiting for white to play bishop f3 and eventually he plans to play c4, but I think in the game he probably played the wrong plan, because obviously if he plays the pawn to c4, white's going to be able to produce a pass pawn, and that's exactly what happened. But here, funny thing is, white is just simply taking his time. See, requirement of the position again, black is not threatening anything dangerous, and it's not easy for him to, well, he can't really improve his position very easily and create an immediate impact. Alright, so therefore white simply improved his queen's position because the queen isn't doing much there, and by putting the queen on e5, it's controlling a very long diagonal once again, and it's putting pressure towards black's pawn on c5. Very nice move. Of course, anything that will improve your position is a good move. But as far as what I could remember, my old coach would always tell me if there's a good move, there's the best move. So queen a5 was nice. Queen e5, and after queen e5, black simply played the move knight f6, trying to improve his embarrassing knight on e8, and white simply continued with bishop f3 according to just following his plan. Rook c7, white continued with rook d6, right? Okay, because as far as what you guys could say about the position, both bishop and queens are very active at the moment, and the rook is active as well, but okay, the goal is just to keep improving and find the most active squares for the pieces, and apparently the rook is not on its the most active square, and the most active square is obviously rook d6 because it controls the file and at the same time it puts pressure towards the rank. So after rook d6, black played knight d7, trying to hold on to his position and blocking the d file. It's not much of an improvement for him, but he's somehow just trying to hold everything together. White played queen c3, keeping his queen on this long diagonal, and keeping pressure along the c5 pawn, and maybe he has some intentions of playing queen a5, which resulted to black's next move to prevent the white queen from going to a5. So he played c4, forcing white to react, or forcing white to play b4, or else black will gain a lot of counterplay if white allows black to open up the c file, possibly with rook c1 check, and then followed by queen c7 in the future, or queen b8, depending on where the king is heading. Okay, so white just played b4, but unfortunately for black, this still favors for white because this allows white to create a pass pawn on the queen side. Alright, just like what we were talking about, bishops are very good when it comes to open positions and two-winged pawn structure for both sides, because, well, as you can see, or what you guys will see in this illustration, after knight f6, white improves the queen again. See, what is my queen doing on c3? Nothing. So put it on a much more active square. I don't necessarily have to push the pawn immediately, but I could take my time and improve. Black plays rook d7, trying to trade off everything, hoping that maybe if he trades off, it'll be much easier to hold the position. And since the rook on c7 wasn't doing much, he decided that, oh, that's too active. I gotta get rid of that. Black plays rook d7, and white just simply snaps it, and black can't really recapture with the queen, because if he does, he's going to end up losing the pawn on c4. So knight takes d7. Next step, improve the position. Which piece of white can improve next? Answer is the queen could still improve into a much more active square. Okay, queen d6. Black plays knight f6, trying to improve his knight. Both sides are trying to improve. Unfortunately, white's major advantage comes to life, which is the pass pawn. And black tried to somehow simplify the position, hoping that white would capture, because if white captures here, he could still somehow just blockade. By no means that he's okay. He can prolong his life a little bit longer, since after knight b8 and trying to blockade the pawn in the future. Probably b6 is not possible here, but white can simply march his king towards the pawn, and this would still be winning for him. And it's black has a long way to go to protect his pawns. Okay, so it's not necessary to go into this endgame, although just like what I said, white is still winning here. White chose a much easier path, which is just playing queen b8 check, and after queen b8 check, black plays king h7, and unfortunately for black, white's pass pawn is going to be unstoppable after b6. Even if he tries to go for a perpetual check, which is probably the only defense left, for instance, if black plays something like queen d2, trying to go for a check, white can just play b7, and after queen c1 check, hoping that he can perform this typical perpetual check. Unfortunately, the queen on b8 is covering this diagonal, and at the same time, once the queen on b8 leaves, it's also covering the queening square of the pawn. Well, thanks for tuning in, and that was the last puzzle. Hopefully by now you have a good sense of how to look for a square that can improve your bishop's position. And good luck, and goodbye.